Welcome back to Lit Snippets. Ready for another deep dive?
Yeah.
Today we're taking a look at Paula Hawkins' The Blue Hour,
Oh, a psychological thriller.
a psychological thriller that'll stick with you.
I like those.
Picture this: a remote island,
Okay.
a grieving woman,
Mm-hmm.
and someone goes missing.
Sounds intriguing already.
Right. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
The Blue Hour introduces us to Vanessa Chapman, a reclusive artist.
Reclusive.
She
Interesting.
makes a surprising decision.
What's that?
She leaves her entire estate to her former gallerist, a man she seemingly hated.
Well, that's unexpected. Why would she do that?
That is the big question. And the setting, Eros Island, makes things even more mysterious.
Oh, how so?
It's this isolated island off the Scottish coast,
Okay.
and it's shrouded in local legends and an unsettling atmosphere.
I see. Eros Island. Sounds like a character itself.
It really does play a crucial role. Think windswept cliffs and crashing waves.
Dramatic.
And get this, they used to bury the dead on the island to protect them from wolves.
Protect them from wolves.
Local legend.
Mm-hmm.
But it adds to that sense of isolation and secrets.
Wow. That sets a really interesting stage. So how do we unravel this mystery?
Well, the story unfolds through multiple perspectives.
Multiple. Interesting.
We get glimpses into Vanessa's mind through her diary entries.
Makes sense.
They're full of raw emotion
Yeah.
and details about her life,
Okay.
like her marriage to Julian Chapman,
Julian Chapman. Got it.
a passionate affair she had,
Ooh, this is getting juicy.
and her complex friendship with a woman named Grace.
So we're not just getting one side of the story.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting because we also hear from the people investigating Vanessa's past.
Okay. Like who?
Grace is one of them.
Oh, right. The friend.
And there's also an art expert who weighs in.
An art expert. Makes sense.
But can we trust what they're saying?
That's a good question.
Each perspective adds a new piece to the puzzle, but it also raises more questions.
This is reminding me of Gone Girl a little bit. Unreliable narrators.
Oh, I see that.
Twists and turns.
Exactly. Hidden agendas abound.
And let's not forget the remote island full of secrets.
You're right. There's also this element of Vanessa's black paintings.
Black paintings.
That adds another layer to the mystery.
How so?
They seem to hold clues to her past. There's one called Hope is Violent.
Hope is violent. That title is just chilling.
It is. And it depicts the view from Vanessa's bedroom window,
Oh, wow.
overlooking Sheepshead Island.
Black paintings. Hope is violent. There's a lot of darkness here.
There is.
Yeah.
And that darkness is even reflected in the title.
The Blue Hour. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. It's not just about a time of day.
No, it evokes that feeling of twilight, when shadows lengthen and secrets come out to play.
You're really making me want to read this.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But before you do, remember that nothing is quite as it seems in the Blue Hour. Every detail, every interaction could be hiding something.
Okay, good advice. So before we go, is there one thing you want listeners to keep in mind as they start reading?
Yes, definitely. Pay close attention to how Paula Hawkins describes Eros Island.
Okay, good tip.
It's not just a setting. It's a force that shapes the characters.
Okay, folks, you heard it here. Get ready to be transported to Eros Island and be prepared for a story that will stay with you long after the Blue Hour fades. We'll be back in part 2 to uncover even more layers of this chilling mystery. So remember how we were talking about that unsettling atmosphere on Eros Island? Well, there's a reason for that feeling. It's tied to the island's history.
You mean like those legends we mentioned?
Exactly. Burying the dead on the island to protect them from wolves, it adds this layer of unease, like secrets are literally buried beneath the surface.
It's like the island itself has a story to tell.
Right. One that's connected to Vanessa's life and the mysteries surrounding her.
Okay, I'm with you.
And that connection between past and present, it's even in Vanessa's art.
Oh, you mean the black paintings?
Yes. They're described as having this disturbing quality, like they're drawing inspiration from the island's darker side.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
The island, the art, the secrets, it's all connected.
It really is.
And even the title, The Blue Hour, becomes more significant here.
How so?
Think about that time between daylight and darkness, when things are hazy and uncertain.
Okay, yeah.
It's like a metaphor for the way truth becomes distorted on Eros Island by secrets and perceptions and, well, everything.
Paula Hawkins is really good at creating atmosphere with visual details. The way she describes the island, the sea, the light, it just adds to the suspense.
Oh, absolutely. She uses language that evokes this sense of foreboding.
Like
Well, there's a passage where a character describes the landscape as being like the birds.
the Hitchcock movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Bleak, terrifying, tragic.
Wow. That definitely gives it a gothic feel, like tapping into those primal fears of isolation, the unknown.
Exactly. Using the island as a catalyst.
Right. And then there's the sea.
Oh, the sea. Hawkins describes it as this powerful force, unpredictable, almost like a character in its own right.
It makes you wonder, is the darkness in the blue hour just psychological?
Right?
Or is there something more sinister happening on Eros Island? Is it the place itself? Or the people drawn to it?
That's what's so brilliant about this book. Paula Hawkins blurs the lines between the psychological and the maybe supernatural.
Oh, I see.
You're constantly questioning what's real and what's imagined.
And that brings us to Grace, Vanessa's friend.
Yes, we haven't talked much about her.
We haven't. And we've said she might not be as reliable as she seems.
Right. What's fascinating about Grace is that she's fiercely loyal to Vanessa, but she's also holding something back.
Information.
Yeah. As the story unfolds, you start to wonder about her role in Vanessa's life and if her motives are really what they seem.
It makes you think about those complex female friendships, the bonds that can be both supportive and destructive.
Absolutely. And with Grace, there's this tension between her devotion to Vanessa and, well, her own anxieties and secrets.
So far, we haven't talked much about the men in Vanessa's life.
Right. Like her husband, Julian, and her lover, Celia.
What role do they play?
They're both very important to the story. Julian and Celia are enigmatic.
Enigmatic.
They really impact Vanessa's actions and her emotional state.
I'm sensing a lot of hidden depths and tangled connections here.
Mm-hmm.
But before we move on, can we go back to Vanessa's art for a minute?
Of course.
We mentioned earlier that it's more than just a backdrop. How does it actually reflect Vanessa's inner world?
One thing that's really interesting is how Vanessa uses art to process her grief and anger. It's a form of therapy for her.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
Like the tortured artist concept.
Right. Creativity from a place of pain and struggle.
Yeah.
And you see that in Vanessa's work. It becomes more dark and abstract as the story goes on. It's like she's trying to capture the darkness she feels, both inside herself and on the island.
Okay, this is so interesting. But before we jump into the final part, what's one thing you want listeners to pay attention to as they continue reading The Blue Hour?
I'd say focus on the symbolism. Paula Hawkins weaves it throughout the story.
Okay, like what?
Elements like the sea, the changing light, even the birds. They have deeper meanings.
Oh, interesting.
They hint at what's to come.
Okay, folks, you heard it here. Look out for those symbolic clues as you continue reading The Blue Hour. And get ready for even more twists and turns. We'll be back in part 3 to unravel the final layers of this chilling mystery. As we've been talking about The Blue Hour, one thing has become clear.
What's that?
The truth is anything but straightforward in this story.
You got that right.
It's like each character has their own version of what happened.
Shaped by their experiences and their perceptions.
Exactly.
That's what makes it so hard to put down.
You have all these conflicting narratives, and the reader is stuck in the middle trying to figure out what really happened.
Like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Exactly. And then there are Vanessa's diary entries. We get to read her innermost thoughts and feelings, but even those are subjective, you know?
Oh, absolutely. It's her version of the story, filtered through her own lens. You can't just take it at face value.
Right. And going back to Eros Island, I wonder if the island itself plays a role in distorting reality.
Interesting thought. The place is definitely shrouded in this, like, unsettling energy.
Right. It's almost as if the island itself encourages people to keep secrets.
And it definitely fosters unease.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if anyone can be objective there.
That's a good point. And it brings us back to the title of The Blue Hour. It's more than just a time of day. It's a metaphor for the haziness of truth.
It's like trying to see clearly in the twilight.
Exactly. And that's where Grace's character gets really fascinating.
Okay, how so?
Well, she's devoted to Vanessa, but she's also hiding things. And maybe even manipulating events behind the scenes.
Ooh, I see.
So her motives are really complex. Is it love, guilt, fear?
Or is there something more sinister going on?
It's hard to know for sure, and that's what keeps you guessing.
It all comes back to the idea that our actions have consequences, even if we think we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And in the Blue Hour, those consequences can be really intense. The lines between right and wrong get blurry, and the truth just vanishes, like it was never even there.
Okay, so for anyone listening who's about to read The Blue Hour,
Hmm.
what's the one thing you want them to keep in mind?
Don't take anything for granted. The brilliance of this book is in the ambiguity. It makes you question everything. So pay attention to those little clues, those shifting perspectives, and get ready for a reading experience you won't forget.
Well said. So there you have it, folks. If you're looking for a psychological thriller that'll keep you on the edge of your seat, The Blue Hour is the book for you. And remember, sometimes the most unsettling truths are hidden in plain sight. Until next time, happy reading.